Psych! Yo, what's hoppin' new friendos? Welcome back to the Tropical Garage. My name's Troy, and today, well, I'm sure you can already guess what today's video is going to be about because you saw it in the intro. So, let's finally finish up this behemoth of a paludarium. We ended the last video with me finishing up the hardscape on the paludarium. So now we've got to rinse the background really well, because the dry lock seems to leave a residue that if it's not rinsed well enough and doesn't have the proper amount of time to air out, there has been some cases where that leaves from the plants that come into contact with the dry lock, they will die. I had this happen in a couple of tanks of mine that I didn't rinse well enough. So on this bad boy, I knew what I had in mind for the plants, and they're not cheap. They're also not the easiest plants in the world to come by. So I didn't want to mess around, and I actually rinsed it out and dried it out 4 different times. I decided to go with some Fluvol stratum as the substrate for this paludarium. One, because I wanted a dark substrate and I wanted to create lots of contrast for the amount of green that's going to be going on above the water. And two, in case I do want to add some live plants, which I'm still undecided on, by the way, at least this is a good substrate where there's lots of nutrients for the plants. But anyhow, I just cut a slit in the bag and let her rip. And also, before we get started on the actual hardscape portion of this aquascape, just know that this is my first time ever working on any type of aquascape, and I really have no idea what I'm doing. But anyways, moving on. I chose Ceru stones as the rocks I wanted to use because I like the natural gray color, and I felt that they would fit the look that I was going for perfectly. Especially with the water being stained with some tannins, I really thought it was just going to be a good look. And as far as placing the stones, well, again, I have no idea what I'm doing. So I kind of just winged it and placing stuff where I thought it looked appeasing to the eye, focusing mainly on the 2 points of landmass, creating structures and clusters of rocks between those 2 areas. It's time to fill the tank, so I laid down some bubble wrap just to disperse the water from the hose so it wouldn't, mess up the substrate and kick up a bunch of muck and make it real cloudy. So we did that, and also I should note that I did use reverse osmosis water to fill this tank. I have a reverse osmosis system for my misting system, so I figured I might as well just use it to fill the tank. Now we're going to plug the waterfall pumps in and see how it all looks, checking for any leaks that may have potentially needed plugged or any areas that may need to have a piece of wood or moss placed to limit the flow to certain areas or redirect the flow to other areas. And I did have to add some silicone to a couple areas after everything dried, but really there were no major serious issues, and I felt that the water features had a really nice natural look to them. So I just rolled with it. I wanted the water area to resemble a stream type habitat since the inhabitants for this tank are readily found near streams in the rainforest. So I decided to add the Vortec MP10 cordless power head to the water area to create a nice stream effect and generate some flow that is easily adjustable and easy to maintain. I wanted to go with a spotlight look, because I think in taller tanks, the spotlight style creates some really awesome shadows that gives off more of a naturalistic looking lighting. I ended up using 8 Skylight Vivarium tiny fixtures that I got from Frosker.com, and I've got to say, I'm really pleased with the overall aesthetic. What do you guys think? And now it's time for me to butcher the pronunciation of some plants. First up to bat, we've got Anthurium corrugatum. It's a nice bullate style anthurium. Next is Philodendron squamacale. It's a really nice green aroid with a really cool fuzzy petiole. Here we have Anthurium warocquianum, aka the Queen Anthurium, a really long, elegant, dark green looking aroid. and nobody wants a lonely queen, so I decided to add Anthurium vecchii, aka the king Anthurium. It's an absolutely stunning, very elongated, perfect green ribbed leaf plant. Here's another Anthurium. This one is called Anthurium ecuadoriensis, a nice beautiful green leaf. This is Philodendron splendid. Here we have a philodendron species from Panama that actually came from ABG. Here's another bullate style Anthurium. This is Anthurium debilis. I have various forms of Philodendron verrucosum in this tank. Here you can see as an example of the cobra form. I have red and melon and tropicals, but I'm not going to show all of them because they do look very similar at this juvenile stage. Here we have yet another bullate style Anthurium. This one is Anthurium rhizomoides. This is Philodendron ploumanii. This is a little cutting of Philodendron burl marks fantasy. This is Philodendron mini Santiago. Here we have another burl marks philodendron, but this is just the standard form. This is Philodendron Florida Ghost. And yes, I do understand that that leaf has most likely seen better days. Here we have another bullate style aroid. This one is Philodendron LEHMANNI. This plant is notoriously hard for people to keep alive unless you're keeping it in a vivarium or terrarium. This is Philodendron montanum. I absolutely love the simplicity and just sheer beauty of this plant. An amazing aroid. Here's an example of the Philodendron verrucosum red. This is a really cool hanging aroid. This is Anthurium pendens. It will get much larger than this and hang all the way down to the water. This one I'm not actually sure on. I think it's Anthurium insigne, but I can't be positive. This is Monstera dubia. It's a really nice shingling aroid. And you guys have seen this one many times before. This is Markgravia centennici. It's by far my favorite Markgravia. I'm not sure on the scientific name of this one. It was sold to me as unknown philodendron species. Here we have a lovely jewel orchid, Eniocticalus roxburghii leopard. Here we have another lovely Markgravia. This one is Markgravia copper. Here we have a really nice peperomia. This one is reptans. And here we have Micraschitis serpifolia. I know that's incorrect. This is Solanum eulanum. Really, really like this plant. This one is Selaginella syracea bronze from Peru. And here we have another cool aroid, I think. I'm not even going to try and say it, so just read it. Here we have a lovely Vresia. This is a smaller bromeliad. This is Vresia racinae, one of my all-time favorites. And this is Vresia erythrodactylon. This one's really known for the really dark axils. And here we have my all-time favorite bromeliad. This is Vresia hieroglyphica. These things get absolutely massive, so you do need a really large vivarium for them, but I absolutely adore this plant. For the ground level, I went with the substrate freestyle. and I just used live low-growing tropical moss. And I also used various types of leaf litter from the rainforest in Peru that I got from Glassbox Tropicals. The types that I used in this build were cashew, cow's ears, guava, and Indian almond. Now let's talk about the inhabitants, which are Atelopus Balios, aka harlequin toads. Now, this is my first time working with the genus of Atelopus, so there's not a whole lot I can tell you based from personal experience. The little I can tell you is that they are kept a lot like poison dart frogs as far as temps, humidity, and food's concerned. And as I said earlier, these frogs are typically found near streams in the rainforest, so I felt that they would fit this type of paludarium perfectly. I can also tell you at this point that they are extremely bold, and they prefer to walk rather than hop, which is also incredibly cool. I'm super excited to watch and learn more about these amazing looking toads, and I plan to share any useful tips that I may come across in my personal experience in the future.